Λοιπόν, τα τελευταία αρχικά κάνω βίντεο και συνέχεια μέσα το λέτσο γιατί είναι έτσι το μαλλί μου. Τέλος πάντων, δεν μας νοιάζει αυτό. Λοιπόν, για εσάς που είδατε το story που ανέβασα χτες το βράδυ, 3 η ώρα, ήρθε η ώρα να σας κάνω explain για το τι συνέβη. So, it's storytime time. Storytime. Λοιπόν, χτες το βράδυ κάθομαι στο κρεβάτι μου και αράζω. Εγώ, επειδή σαν μουλάρα χτες γύρισα από τη σχολή και κοιμήθηκα, ξύπνησα 11 η ώρα το βράδυ. Πολύ normal αυτό. Που σημαίνει ότι μετά δεν μπορούσα να ξανακοιμηθώ. Γιατί είχα ήδη κοιμηθεί 5 ώρες. Άρα λοιπόν, άραζα εγώ στο κρεβάτι μου το βράδυ, καθόμουν να σκρόλαρα στο TikTok. Άμα δείτε το screen time μου, κυριολεκτικά μέσα σε μια εβδομάδα έχω 40 ώρες στο TikTok. Anyways, λοιπόν, σε μια φάση όπως κάθομαι, έρχεται ο μπαμπάς μου μέσα στο δωμάτιο. Είναι αυτό το κλασικό που σε πιάνει το κατούριμα το βράδυ, σηκώνεσαι να κατουρίσεις. Ναι. Ήρθε ο μπαμπάς μου λοιπόν στο δωμάτιο να δει αν είμαστε καλά. Με βλέπει, μου λέει τράβα κοιμήσου. Του λέω ναι, θα κοιμηθώ. Τέλος πάντων αυτό. Μετά από 10 λεπτά λοιπόν, αφού έφυγε ο μπαμπάς μου από το δωμάτιο, ακούω ένα Σαβίνα. Τύπου όχι φωναχτό, γιατί ήταν και βράδυ, δεν άκουσα Σαβίνα. Άκουσα Σαβίνα. Και εγώ νόμιζα ότι κάτι ήθελε. Αλλά επειδή ήταν βράδυ και δεν ήθελα να ξυπνήσω τους άλλους στο σπίτι, δεν γύρισα να πω έλα. Απλά δεν μίλησα. Να βάλω λίγο έτσι τρομακτική μουσική. Θέλω λίγο να πέσει λίγο το κλίμα. Και τέλος πάντων, επειδή περίμενα και δεν τον ξανά άκουσα να με φωνάζει, τον λυπήθηκα γιατί μπορεί κάτι όντως να ήθελε και λέω μαλάκα εντάξει, θα πάω να δω. Και τέλος πάντων, σηκώνομαι από το κρεβάτι να πάω να δω, πηγαίνω στο δωμάτιο των γονιών μου και βλέπω ότι ο μπρο κοιμάται. Κανονικότατα όμως. Τύπου δεν γύρισε καν να με κοιτάξει να μου πει εντάξει, δεν θέλω κάτι τώρα. Τύπου κοιμόταν, ροχάλιζε. Και λέω μαλάκα. What the fuck just happened? Και εγώ, I played it off. Και πήγα τουαλέτα, δηλαδή όπως ήμουν στο δωμάτιο των γονιών μου, μέσα μου σκέφτομαι, Σαβίνα, ό,τι και να ήταν, κάνω ότι κατουριέσαι και πας τουαλέτα. Πάω λοιπόν στη τουαλέτα, αρχίζω να σκέφτομαι τι συνέβη. Λοιπόν, αρχικά είδα τα μηνύματά σας, τα είδα όλα τα μηνύματα που μου στείλατε, ότι είναι mimic. Ναι, εγώ επειδή ξέρω τι είναι αυτό και δεν είμαι τόσο clueless from life, γι' αυτό το έκανα play off. Γιατί άμα τους δώσεις σημασία μπορεί τα πράγματα να μην πάνε όσο καλά θέλεις. Και επειδή εγώ λέω μαλάκα Σαβίνα, όχι, δεν θα παίξουμε, we're not playing that game, we're going to toilet. Πάω εγώ λοιπόν on toilet και λέω μαλάκα, τι στον μπούτσο έγινε. Άρχιζα να σκέφτομαι ότι πολύ πιθανό ο άνθρωπος να το είπε στον ύπνο του. Ναι, αλλά ταυτόχρονα πριν 10 λεπτά ήταν ξύπνιος. Πόσο γρήγορα τον πήρε ο ύπνος για να πει το όνομά μου. Ναι, το είπε στον ύπνο του. Ή μπορεί εγώ να ακούω πράγματα, πολύ πιθανό. Είμαι delusional, ναι, είμαι delusional. Οπότε αυτό συνέβη και μετά απλά πήγα στο κρεβάτι μου τρέχοντας. Είναι αυτό το κλασικό που κλείνεις τα φώτα και απλά τρέχεις στο δωμάτιό σου. Και το ανέβασα story. Ναι. So basically, άμα ήταν αυτό που λέτε εσείς ότι ήταν, που δεν μπορώ να πω δυνατά γιατί είμαι σπίτι μου αυτή τη στιγμή και δεν θα ήθελα να... Είμαι λίγο delusional και κοιτάω πίσω μου αυτή τη στιγμή γιατί I'm kinda fucking scared. Άμα είναι όντως αυτό, I'm fucked. Και επίσης, disclaimer, οι παλιοί μπορεί να θυμούνται ή μπορεί να μην θυμάστε καν, δεν πειράζει, θα το ξαναπώ. Είχα πει κάποτε μια τρομακτική ιστορία. Όταν είχαμε φρέσκο μετακομίσει στο καινούριο σπίτι, γιατί συνήθως όλες οι μαλακίες γινόντουσαν στο παλιό μου σπίτι. Στο καινούριο σπίτι δεν είχαν γίνει πολλά πράγματα. Βασικά παίζει να έχουν γίνει μετρημένα 2 πράγματα με αυτό που έγινε χτες. Αυτό που είχε συμβεί λοιπόν είναι ότι μία μέρα καθόμουν πάλι στο κρεβάτι και άραζα και άκουσα την πόρτα του δωματίου να χτυπάει. Και ήταν τύπου 1,5 ώρα το βράδυ, 2 η ώρα, κάτι τέτοιο. Και εγώ casual, επειδή δεν ήταν πάρα πολύ αργά, υπέθεσα ότι κάποιος ξύπνησε, ότι κάποιος κάτι ήθελε από μένα. Και απλά κυριολεκτικά σηκώθηκα από το κρεβάτι μου και άνοιξα την πόρτα να δω ποιος είναι. Και δεν ήταν κανείς. So basically it's the second time that fucking happens. Ναι. Οπότε κάτι πάει πάρα πολύ λάθος. Και τώρα που λέμε για μαλακίες που μου έχουν συμβεί στο καινούριο σπίτι, θυμήθηκα κι άλλη μία μαλακία που μου είχε συμβεί, αλλά δεν την πήρα ποτέ σοβαρά, οπότε δεν την ανέφερα ποτέ. Και θα δείτε και στο βίντεο ότι δεν την πήρα ποτέ σοβαρά, αλλά και πάλι είναι περίεργο. Οπότε wait.
Μπρα. Κλείστο ρε. Oh, shit. Άνοιξε. Oh, well. Κυριολεκτικά μόλις ξύπνησα το είδα να αναβοσβήνει. Και δεν αναβόσβηνε απλά. Τύπου ήταν σαν σήματα μος, μπρο. Δεν ξέρω. I don't know. Λογικά κάποιο παιδάκι στο υπόγειο που έχουν απαγάγει προσπαθεί να μου δώσει σήματα για σως. Αλλά τώρα δουλεύει κανονικά, αλλά δεν το πείραξα καν. Επίσης, guys, mind me, αλλά το κομπιούτερ για το... Πού είναι καν το κομπιούτερ για τα λεντάκια? What the fuck, περίμενε. Είναι εδώ. Οπότε, I didn't fucking do it.
Η ανάλυση είναι αλκατέλ, αλλά κυριολεκτικά ο λόγος που δεν το ανέφερα ποτέ και δεν έδειξα ποτέ αυτό το βίντεο είναι επειδή κυριολεκτικά κανείς δεν θα πιστέψει ότι δεν το έκανα εγώ με το τηλεχειριστήριο. Τύπου κανείς δεν θα το πιστέψει. Nobody. Γιατί κυριολεκτικά είπα κλείσε και έκλεισε και είπα άνοιξε και άνοιξε. Και όλοι θα λένε μαλάκα κυριολεκτικά ή σε τρολάρει ο γείτονάς σου ή το κάνεις εσύ. Οπότε και εγώ νόμιζα ότι σε μια φάση απλά με τρόλαρε ο γείτονας. Like, κυριολεκτικά είχα βγει και κοίταγα και μου κάπως ποιος το κάνει καν.
Want to hear something scary? Have you ever heard the creepypasta called I've been blind for nearly 30 years? No? Me neither. Want to hear it? I wasn't always this way. Blind, I mean. When I was younger, I used to run around my neighborhood, going on long adventures from dusk to coming back well after dawn. I lived in a medium-sized but safe town, and my parents knew almost everyone, so when I did come home late, they were never too concerned. Despite the town's normal enough size, there was never really much to do. We had a baseball diamond down in the valley below, an aquarium that my mom would occasionally take me to on her days off, or when I was extra antsy on a rainy day, and the woods that I'd run around often. It wasn't until my birthday started to roll around that something interesting finally started to happen. One morning, over a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch for breakfast, my dad told me that overnight a traveling circus had set up down in the valley below behind the baseball diamond, and that he would take us all as an early birthday gift for me. I was beyond thrilled when I heard this and made sure to give him a few extra tight hugs throughout the day. Like always, I ventured out early on to explore the town and find an adventure. My mind was full of ideas and curiosity as to what the fair could be like. I remember my father saying it was just down past the baseball diamond, but I probably shouldn't go that far. So instead of waiting for the circus this upcoming weekend, I make my way into the forest and find a big oak tree. This tree is tall and slightly bent, making it easier to climb. I'm sure if I go up this tree just a little, I'll be able to see the circus in the distance without having to go too far. I begin my climb up the tree, scooting myself along branches, a smile of anticipation pulling at my lips, before all of a sudden, it goes black. I wake a few days later, blinking groggily and opening my eyes, turning my head towards my mother's voice. But all I see when I look at her is an inky nothingness, and that's when it hits me. I can't see. Life was hard after that, relearning how to live and never seeing the blue sky or green trees again, but I learned to live with it. Now, I'm a thriving adult. I work at a school for the blind, and I just bought my own home a few weeks back after saving up for years. I learned how to navigate as a blind person. I leave the doors open in my house for convenience, not wanting to fumble with handles. I never turn on my lights either, not needing them anyway. And I know exactly where I set my water glasses so I can find them later. Things like that. So when I started running into doors I never closed, and turning off lamps I never turned on, I knew something was wrong. I was having a bad day. The kids at school weren't listening, my boss was rude, and it had been raining all day. It's the kind of day that when you get done, you just want to go home and sleep. And that's exactly what I did. The second I walked through my door, I stepped forward into my house, knowing the exact number of steps to my bedroom, and then plopped down, kicking off my shoes before climbing under the covers. But I just couldn't fall asleep. I kept trying. I closed my eyes and tossed and turned, but something just felt off. I stand from my bed, walking into the kitchen to get water, downing it quickly, and wiping my mouth, before making my way back towards the bedroom and laying down. That's when it hits me. My bed was warm. That's what felt wrong. The other side of my bed was warm, like someone had been laying there. I tense at the thought and listen closely. Being deaf so long, you can hear the slightest changes in sound, so I'd know if someone was in the house. I listen for a few moments and hear nothing. So taking a deep breath, I close my eyes and go to sleep. The next few days, incidents like this continue. I feel an odd sort of tension, like I'm being watched, and things are left out of place. The glass I set on the counter moved to the other side. My TV remote on top of the couch cushion instead of the mantel. Just odd things like that, but I chalk it down to me having a bad memory. One night, I come home from work, tired and wanting to relax. I make myself a snack and then sit down on the couch, watching, or rather listening, to the TV. I sit there for a long while, more zoned out than anything. The noise, something calming in the background. That's when I feel a dim warmth coming from my right side. I pause, letting the feeling sink in for a moment, before I outstretch my hand and it lands on my lampshade. The lamp is on. I haven't had guests over in well over a month. There's no reason why the lamp should be on. At this point, I'm starting to get creeped out that something is really wrong here. All of these things out of place, and are my lights turning on without me doing it? I stand from the couch carefully, trying to get my bearings and calmly walk to my bedroom to sit down. Maybe call someone, get some advice or help? I don't know. I step forward, once, then twice, then my nose slams into the hard, cool wood of my bedroom door. My blood runs cold. I do not shut my doors. Someone is in my house. I swallow, unsure what to do, but swiftly turn my back to the door, facing my body towards whoever may be in the house. I stuff my trembling hand down into my pocket, pulling out my phone, and I start to dial 911, but my hands are shaking so badly I drop it. I feel the vibration as it hits the floor by my feet, and immediately drop to my knees, feeling over the wood, trying to pick it up, but my hands find nothing. I know I just dropped it, it was right here, but the more I feel, the more intense my panic gets as I cannot find it.
Focus on my face.
I start to crawl on my hands and knees, feeling across the floor, thinking maybe it just bounced away. Really far. I crawl all the way to the living room, my hands feeling soft carpet as I feel for my phone. Finally, my hand settles on something cold but firm, and I sigh in relief. My phone, thank God. I lift my hand to readjust, and then place it in the exact same spot I just had moments before. Nothing's there. I swallow, feeling around the same spot, finding only the soft wool of the carpet. My hand wanders further, and I tell myself, maybe I just hit it a little and it rolled to the side. But as my hand falls once again on the same texture, I realize it's not my phone. It's cold and fleshy, soft almost, and when it pulls away, I realize what it is. A foot. I scream immediately, scrambling back, slamming my shoulder into the side of the couch before my back hits the wall, and I lift my legs, ready to kick anything that comes near. But only silence follows. I sit there for a long while, waiting to hear something, but never do, so I slowly push up, standing, and creep back towards the front door. If I can get to the door, I can run out into the street and scream until someone either calls the cops or helps me. I back up slowly, trying to keep my nerves level so I don't panic and burst for the door. But that's when I feel a faint, warm breath right in front of my face, and my nerves snap. I scramble backwards, making a harsh left turn around the couch and swerving to reach the door, but miscalculate and slam into the side of the kitchen island instead. Pain shoots through me, but the adrenaline is stronger. I reach out, grabbing something sharp from a nearby drawer, and swing it wildly in front of me, hearing a faint snicker from my side. I swallow, turning my attention back to the door and trying to focus. I swing the object wildly in front of me as I walk backwards, trying to keep whoever's here away until my hand touches the cool metal of the doorknob. The second it does, I swing it open, bolting into the street and screaming. I don't even remember if I was screaming help or just plain screaming, but I needed someone to come find me. That's when I hear the soft and cooing voice of a woman. "Hush now, dear, everything's okay. Shh, shh, shh." I turn my head in the direction of the sound and lower my weapon faintly. "That's it, it's all right, I'll help you. Shh." She shushes me, stepping closer. Being deaf, you can just hear things differently. I can tell what type of car is driving past just from its tires, or the type of jewelry someone's wearing from how it jingles. And as the woman steps forward, I know what the sound of shoes on pavement sounds like, and this woman is barefoot. I begin screaming again, louder than before, and the woman huffs, bolting away as I do. It doesn't take long for the cops to arrive, one of my neighbors having called because of all the screaming. Apparently, 2 junkies have been living in my house for well over 2 weeks now, staying in my guest bedroom. It seems that they figured they'd be able to hunker down in the blind man's house as long as they were quiet. But even after the police left with them, I still felt an edge sometimes. I still come home to a door shut here or there, or a glass or plate left out of place. I never hear anything, and I'll search the house to the best of my ability, finding absolutely nothing. However, sometimes when the TV turns off and the house goes silent, I feel like I can hear a faint breathing coming from the corner of the room. I think the police might have missed one. Sorry to interrupt your spooky video. I'm doing something on my Instagram. If you just go follow my Instagram and follow my TikTok, I'm going to be picking 3 people from today to get their own video dedicated to them, and each person can pick their own creepypasta that I get to tell. I'll shout out your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube, whatever it is. Yeah. Thank you.
I think this is the most terrifying story I've ever heard. One of my old high school friends just called me, and I actually had to pull the car over because she told me a story that she wants me to share with you guys that has me absolutely floored. She said that her and a couple of her girlfriends went to a cabin outside of Banner Elk, North Carolina, which is in the Appalachian Mountains. They were staying at her friend's family cabin out there, and again, this is a family cabin, but they rent it out and let other family members and friends use it. She said the cabin was really quaint and cozy. There was 2 bedrooms downstairs and like a kitchen, living room area, and then there was a loft upstairs that you have to climb like a ladder to get up to. The first night they just hung out. They were drinking some wine, gossiping, catching up with one another, that kind of thing. And she said everyone went to bed. So 2 girls slept in one room, 2 girls slept in the other room, and they just left the loft open. She said in the middle of the night she couldn't sleep because she woke up and was absolutely freezing. She walked out into the living room area just to check like the heater or whatever, and it said it was set to 72 degrees and the thermostat read 72, but she was so cold she could see her breath. She ended up just putting on like a bunch of extra sweatshirts and found some extra blankets in the closet and went back to her room and fell asleep. The next day they woke up and they're just kind of like drinking their coffee, looking around the cabin, and they find this like guest book that was sitting at the entryway of the cabin. Next to the guest book was like a Polaroid camera that they could use like whenever family would come and stay. They would write like a little note, whatever, take a Polaroid picture and leave it in the book. She said they're like looking through it and her friend's like, oh yeah, this is my uncle so-and-so and these are old friends from like wherever. But then they got to one page and there was this picture of a guy that her friend did not recognize, and she's like, I don't know who this guy is. And the only message he wrote is, I love it. I wish I could stay here forever. The other odd thing is in the picture, it was like a selfie picture that he took with the Polaroid, and he was missing his index finger. So he was just like, hi, but the index finger was missing. The friend was like, this is not someone that we know. So she takes a picture of the Polaroid picture and like the handwriting and sends it to her mom and is like, who is this guy? The mom had no idea. The mom was like, I honestly have no clue who that is. The friend was like a little uneasy by this, but she's like, okay, I mean, I don't know, weird, but whatever. Nothing strange happened the rest of the day, and then they go to bed that night, and this is when things get really strange. She wakes up in the middle of the night again, freezing. This time she wakes up her friend, and she was like, why is it so cold in here? Her friend was like, I don't know, you're right, it's absolutely freezing. They get up to get more blankets again, and then they start hearing footsteps in the loft above. They are obviously freaking terrified at this point. They run out of their room and run across the living room into the other girls' rooms to wake them up. They're like, something crazy is going on. We're hearing footsteps up in the loft. It is freezing in here. So they all just kind of huddle together and stay hidden in that room together. One of the girls is like, we need to call the cops right now. But then the girl who owned the cabin was like, no. It could just be a raccoon. It could be anything like that. So let me just peek out and see if I see anything. So she opens the door and is able to kind of like look up into the loft area, and she doesn't see anything. As soon as the sun comes up, they work up the nerve to get out of the bedroom, and one of the friends decides she's going to go up and just see what's up in the loft. There's nothing up there. Nothing seems out of place. She's like looking around. She doesn't see that anything's fallen or that anything's out of the ordinary. But then there's a window, and on the inside of the window are 4 fingerprints sliding down the glass. She climbs back down the ladder. She is screaming. She is freaking out because she said she saw them appear and slide down the glass. They waste no time. They just grab their things, get in the car, and go home. I'm still sitting here just like, I just cannot believe this story. What do you guys think about this? What do you think it could be? Drop it in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories, just follow along.
Should we show them the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
On the afternoon of July 18th, 1997, a man was driving down a road surrounded on both sides by trees in a rural part of Wisconsin called Douglas County. There were no other cars on the road, and so this guy was driving pretty fast. And as he rounded this bend in the road, something out the passenger side window on the side of the road in the grass caught his eye. He couldn't tell what it was, but it was a pretty big object, and after he drove right past it, he just couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, whatever it was, it just seemed out of place. And so for whatever reason, this man felt compelled to actually stop and go see what it was. And so he slowed down and parked on the shoulder, he got out, and began walking along the road back in the direction of this object. And as he got closer, he began to see this object again in the shoulder of the road, and it was sort of obscured by grass and other things, so he couldn't see what it was. But as he got closer, he saw the object was pretty big, and it was all white. And as he took a few more steps and got within maybe 20 or 30 feet, he finally got a better look at this object, and he just froze. Because the object was a man wearing all white, a white suit, a white belt, white shoes, all white, and he was laying on the side of the road, just totally motionless. And for a second, the driver thought, maybe this guy is sleeping, but after taking only a few more steps and getting a totally unobstructed view at this guy, he saw there was a gaping hole in this man's chest. He was obviously dead. And so the driver turned around, ran back to his car, sped to the nearest house, and called 911. The next morning, a Douglas County detective named Stephen Long was sitting at his desk looking at the photos of the dead man in white. This murder case was less than 24 hours old, but already this was one of the weirder cases that this detective had ever been assigned to. The victim had pretty much immediately been identified because he was carrying on his person his wallet, and in his wallet was his driver's license, and so they knew who he was. But the man in white's identity actually made the whole case more confusing, not less. And Mark had no obvious ties to the area, so what was this rich guy doing 3 hours from home, dressed all in white, getting shot to death on the side of the road? Like, it didn't add up. The dead man was a 45-year-old millionaire named Mark Foster, and Mark lived 3 hours away in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and had no discernible ties to Douglas County, and so the detective was thinking, like, what is this rich guy doing here, dressed head to toe, all in white, getting murdered on the side of some local random back road? But things only got more confusing from there. After the medical examiner did Mark's autopsy, he told Detective Long that he had discovered a note inside of Mark's shoe. And the note just said, "Jack Frazier isn't here, but it's Jimmy Bailey? Or a lookalike? I hope I'm okay." Now, nobody, including Detective Long, had any idea what this note meant. It was far too cryptic. But when they ran Jack Frazier and Jimmy Bailey's names through their database, the police discovered that both of those men, one, existed, and two, they lived in Minnesota, same as Mark Foster. And so naturally, Detective Long began to suspect that maybe those two men were connected in some way to Mark Foster. Maybe they were involved in his murder, or maybe they were actually his killer or killers. He didn't know, but it was his best lead. So Detective Long decided he would just have to go to Minneapolis to try to find out more. A few hours later, Detective Long parked his car at the Minneapolis police station. He got out and walked inside the building. Waiting for him inside was the local detective who Mark had already spoken to. And so after meeting this detective, the two of them went into an interview room where Mark Foster's wife was waiting for them. And right away, Detective Long noticed that she was very pregnant and at least 15 or 20 years younger than Mark. But despite that, she seemed very composed. It would turn out she'd already been told about her husband's death, and she was basically resigned to the fact that she was here to try to answer questions to figure out what happened. And so the detective sat down and they began to interview her. And then when they brought up the note that was found in Mark's shoe, specifically when they said the two names that were on that note, Jack Frazier and Jimmy Bailey, when they said that, it triggered something in Mark Foster's wife. She immediately began to cry. And then in between sobs, she would tell the detectives that she knew who those two men were. She told them that she had previously had relationships with both of them before marrying Mark. And she said after she married Mark, Jack and Jimmy became very jealous. They didn't like the idea that she had chosen Mark over them. And so she had always felt like those two, Jack and Jimmy, sort of had it out for Mark as a result of this romantic rivalry. After the interview with Mark's wife ended, Detective Long began to think that, despite this case appearing on the surface to be very odd and confusing, that perhaps in reality, it was quite simple. Maybe Jimmy and Jack were so jealous of Mark that they killed Mark. I mean, based on what Mark's wife had just told them in the interview about them being romantic rivals of Mark, and also the fact that that note was in Mark's shoe and named those two men, it certainly seemed very possible. But over the next couple of days that Detective Long began digging into this theory, that theory fell apart. Because it would turn out Jack Frazier and Jimmy Bailey had absolutely airtight alibis. They simply couldn't have been the killers. Now, Detective Long was obviously frustrated. He felt like he really had it here. But he was not deterred. He decided his next move would be to try to better understand his victim. To this point, he had already interviewed a lot of Mark's friends and family, but something he had not done yet was simply go to Mark's house and have a look around. So Detective Long got a search warrant, and on July 29th, roughly a week after Mark was killed, Detective Long, along with another detective, pulled up in front of Mark Foster's large 2-story home in the middle of a quiet suburban neighborhood. Now, from the outside, the home looked totally ordinary relative to its neighbors, but once they got inside the house, it was anything but. The detectives made their way up to the front door and knocked, and a few seconds later, Mark Foster's wife opened up the door and let them inside. And right away, Detective Long is looking around, and he's seeing all over the walls on the first floor of the house are these graphic pictures and paintings of naked people. And then in addition to that, on some of the coffee tables and various surfaces on the first floor, right when you walk in, are all these pornographic magazines and books everywhere. And Mark's wife didn't acknowledge any of it. She acted like it was completely normal to have all this stuff right in the front part of your house. And so the two detectives are looking at each other as, Mark's wife is leading them on this tour through the first floor. And at some point, Detective Long just said, hey, Mrs. Foster, why don't you have a seat on the couch and you just let us take a look around your house on our own? And so she said, okay. She sat down on the couch, and then the two detectives, they left the living room, went back to the front of the house, and made their way upstairs. And once they got upstairs, they found the master suite, and there was all this bondage gear inside. There were leather straps attached to the bedposts, there was whips and handcuffs, there was also additional pornographic material in there. But, considering what the detectives had seen downstairs, this sort of felt on par for this house. And so after searching the other bedrooms and other rooms on the second floor and finding more pornographic material basically everywhere, the detectives found their way back to the hallway in the second floor, and they noticed there was a rope hanging down from the ceiling, and it was attached to the pull door that led to the attic. And so the two detectives, they walked over, they pulled the rope down, it revealed this fold-out set of stairs that came down from the attic, and once those were in place, the two detectives began climbing up. And once they got up there, they discovered that this attic was not a storage space like many attics are in American homes. Instead, this attic was a fully functional room that sort of resembled like a satanic dungeon of sorts. All the walls were totally jet black, and there were all these burned out candles all over the place and tarot cards littering the floor. And on the back of the attic, basically all the way on the other side, there was what appeared to be an altar that sort of overlooked the entire room. And on the altar were more candles, and there was a voodoo doll. It's totally creepy, and the two detectives are looking at each other like, what's going on here? And so the detectives, they climbed all the way into the attic, and then slowly began walking across towards the altar. And when they got close enough to actually see the altar up close, they just froze. Because sitting on the altar, in addition to the candles and the voodoo doll, were two business cards. Their own business cards.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
Spooky Stories. Tää on mun seuraajan kertoma, eli tää ei ole tapahtunut mulle. Olin 8-vuotias. Olin kaverillani yötä ja me päätimme pelata totuutta ja tehtävää. Kaverini kysyi minulta totuus vai tehtävä, ja vastasin tehtävä. Kaverini talon vieressä asui vanha pappa. Kaverini sanoi, että juokse vanhan ukon oven taakse ja pimpota 10 kertaa, jonka jälkeen juokse pois. Toteutin tehtävän Ja kun olin juossut pois, niin katsoimme kaverini kanssa vanhan papan ovea, mutta kukaan ei tullut avaamaan. Menimme nukkumaan. Kaverini nukahti, mutta minä en saanut unta, sillä mietin vain sitä tehtävää ja että miksi ovi ei auennut. Kello oli noin 12 yöllä. Yhtäkkiä kuulin, kun alakerran ovi pamahti auki. Hätäännyin tästä tosi paljon ja pelkäsin, että se on se pappa. Aloin herättelemään kaveriani. Hän sanoi kuitenkin, että minä kuulin vain omiani. Yhtäkkiä huoneen, jossa nukuimme, ovi avautui. Käänsin äkkiä kylkeä poispäin ovesta ja kuulin ihan kuin kaverini.
Well, I was just walking in the cornfields, minding my own business. Typical Friday night in Indiana. Thought I was all by myself, but apparently I was not. I'm talking quietly because I'm a little frightened. This is happening. I'm gonna get closer. They're not even acknowledging their presence. And I don't really have any friends. I kind of wanted to do something fun tonight because it is a Friday, so I'm just gonna see what's going on. It's so weird. There's so many weird things happening out here all the time. You really never know. What? What? Here, I'll show you guys a better angle. Pretty night. Well, I guess I'm just gonna hang out here for a little bit with my new friends, and yeah. So I hope you guys are having a good night too.